This is Shopify Masters, the e-commerce marketing podcast for ambitious entrepreneurs. It's powered by Shopify, the easiest way to sell online, in person, and anywhere in between. To start your free 14-day trial, visit shopify.com. Hey entrepreneurs, my name is Felix and I'm the host of the Shopify Masters podcast. Each week we put out podcast interviews with successful e-commerce entrepreneurs or experts to give you inspiration, motivation, and actionable tips to increase your traffic and sales so your store can generate the sales you need to live the life you want. On the last episode, Try the World talked about how they grew their subscription box business to 50,000 customers. On today's episode, you'll learn from an entrepreneur that's launched a $2.5 million portfolio of single product stores. In this episode, you'll learn how they came up with and tested their positioning for each business using Facebook ads, why you should meet with manufacturers in person, and the pros and cons of being completely transparent with your business's numbers. Today, I'm joined by Marshall Haas from Needwant.com. That's NEEDWANT.com. Needwant makes products that solve problems, and their most recent products are Peel, a cell phone case that does not ruin the aesthetics of your phone, and Smart Bedding, which is a premium linen bedding featuring smart design details and no retail markups. It was started in 2014 and based out of St. Louis, Missouri. Welcome, Marshall.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Cool. So your company has like many different products. I think it's really cool that you go to Needwant.com, you see a listing of all the different products. So give us an idea of, what is like the Needwant company and what are some of the, other products that you guys sell?
Yeah, so we're structured a little different than most companies. So each of the brands you just listed, like Peel and Smart Bedding, are all technically their own company, and then they're just wholly owned by Needwant, and then everybody in the company works under Needwant. Nobody's dedicated wholly to any company. We all kind of do our roles in each respective one, whether it's operations or marketing or whatever. So basically, Needwant kind of operates everything. So in a way, you could call us like a studio or like an umbrella company. It's kind of like a hybrid model of doing a few different brands all under one roof.
Cool. Yeah, I'm sure there's pros and definitely challenges that come with running all of that, and then we'll get to that in a bit. But tell us a little bit more about your background. Like, what were you doing before getting into e-commerce?
Yeah, so I've always done entrepreneurial projects. My background is in architecture. I used to want to be an architect, and I worked in a firm for I think 3.5 years, from like 17 to 20 or 21, something like that. And I realized, like a year in, it wasn't for me. I saw who I'd be when I was 50, and I was just like, nah. But I used, money from working there to start different little projects, and that was kind of my education in entrepreneurship, was using that money. So I used to have a architectural rendering firm where, use the background in architecture. I basically, if you see a sign outside of a building or a construction project, showing what it's going to look like when it's finished, that's an architectural rendering. So I used to have a little company that would do those projects, and then it was all outsourced to a group in the Philippines that I partnered with. So that was kind of my first foray into like outsourcing and things like that. So I did that for a few years. I dabbled with like iPhone apps, and then before Needwant, I had a project management company, so a software tech startup. And then we were brought on to MetaLab. They had basically acquired our team. And then during that period, it's kind of gray when it all started, is when I started dabbling with physical products. And that's kind of how I met John, my co-founder. But yeah, that's kind of like a quick overview of my background. So architecture, and then tech, and then physical products.
Yeah, very cool. So that transition from tech and software and not very tangible products over to physical products, were you able to bring on any of the kind of skills that you learned from your past businesses that weren't necessarily selling physical products over to your new businesses that are now solely physical products?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things just overall in any business is positioning. Why are you better or different, or what's the new take on that industry that is different with what you do and how you communicate that. Those kind of principles I think apply to most any business. Design, design is really important in tech, and that's just always been really important to us, and that carries over as well, into anything, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think positioning is a really important one that you bring up because it's really laying the foundation and almost like the direction that you're going to bring your company. It's going to matter and basically drive the entire company and your brand from then on. So it's something that you almost have to get right, not necessarily solid or concrete from the beginning, but you definitely have to have a good idea of how you want to position your company. So do you have any tips on an exercise or like how if someone's out there is listening and doesn't really feel like their product or their brand or their company really stands out from the competition, like how do you figure out your positioning?
So I don't know if we necessarily have like a formula or anything. It's a lot of, it's a little bit of research of just seeing what else is out there. And then it's a lot of, John and I used to just sit down and talk together on, whether it was the notebook or the bedding or our Peel cell phone cases. Like in my opinion, it's always great to own, an idea. So like Peel was the first super thin iPhone case, and the idea was it doesn't ruin the aesthetic of your phone. So there's a million cell phone cases out there, but that was what we were all about. That's what we owned. When you think of Peel, you think of, okay, that's the thinnest one. If I want a case that doesn't ruin my phone's good looks, that's the one for me. And so anytime you can own like an idea like that, and that's when people think of that in that genre of product, they think of you. That's the best thing in my opinion. Otherwise, you're just kind of, okay, it's a Me Too, it's a rubber cell phone case. Like, how is this one different? Or the opposite side of the spectrum on cell phone cases is an OtterBox, and it's like, okay, if you want ultimate protection, you think of OtterBox, and that's how they've positioned themselves, and that's what they stick with. So we always look for that, kind of interjecting yourself into that space in a new way, instead of just, okay, we sell this and we're just one more guy that sells the same thing. We just definitely never want to be that.
Yeah, I think positioning, to do positioning well, you have to be comfortable knowing and coming out and saying that your product's not for everybody. I think that's an issue that a lot of maybe new entrepreneurs run into, where someone asks them, oh, what is your store? What is your product? And they kind of list off all of these customers and demographics, and they want to serve everybody. And when you do that, then you end up serving nobody, right? So I think
Totally.
that's a big part of it too. And, this kind of leads me to the next question, which is how deep or how differentiated do you need to be? Because let's say you come up with the positioning, for the Peel cell phone case. It's a cell phone case that doesn't ruin the aesthetics of your phone. If you came up with that kind of positioning and then you went out into the marketplace and found another company that has something similar to that. I can't think of a good example, but let's say that they're also going after the market of people that want protection on their phone but don't want to, ruin the aesthetics of it. Would you still move forward with that, or would you try to go down another level deeper to differentiate yourself even more? Like, how do you know when is enough when it comes to differentiation?
So the quick answer is it just always depends, But I mean, in that example, if somebody's doing it and doing it really, really well, and they're like clearly owning it, then I don't know, maybe then we shy away from that product and we do something else. But just because you find someone that's doing it in a similar positioning as you're thinking of doing, I wouldn't say that should stop you. We definitely try to look at like, okay, are they marketing this well? Like, are they actually, okay, that's their positioning, but does anybody even know about them? Can we come in and, own this market because, they don't know how to acquire customers or whatever it is. That hasn't been the case ever, but if that ever was, I would look at, okay, they exist, but does anybody, know about them? Are they finding people? Are they getting the word out? So yeah, I mean, it really depends how deep you want to go or how niche you want to go with a particular product. For us, it was it was a pain point. We knew a lot of other people had the similar pain point of like, okay, I just spent all this money on this expensive iPhone, and now I'm going to ruin this great device that, like the best in the world, Johnny Ive design. I'm going to slap this like giant hunk of rubber around it and get to enjoy this, phone that I just shell out a bunch of money for. So, it honestly in that we didn't really do any testing. So that product was John's, and then we brought it on, but I know John didn't really do any testing. It was just a gut thing. And it definitely was the case where a lot of people, that positioning resonated with a lot of people.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I'm reading all of your descriptions on eat1.com, and they all, when I'm reading them, they're written really well, where I'm like, wow, I can understand that it speaks to me or it doesn't speak to me, like immediately, right? It almost like, yes, that's the exact problem that I have and the exact solution that I'm looking for. And I think that that's a really important point in about how to actually test your positioning. So I know you're saying that you haven't done that with Peel, or John hasn't done it with Peel, but is that a process you go through today where you come up with maybe a thesis for a position and then find ways to test it? Do you do that today?
Sometimes. So one example is smart betting. When we were working on that, we actually, before we launched, we knew, it was going to be it was going to help you to, not make your bet or to make your bet faster. And so before we launched the Kickstarter, we put up a landing page to kind of collect early interest via email, and, we tweeted out, and I think we bought a few Facebook ads for it. And it was just a landing page with a logo and then a headline and then an email opt-in form. And we tested that headline. It was basically the tagline. And so I think we tested like 4 or 5 different taglines, which attempted to explain it. And never make your bet again. I don't remember what the other ones were, but and then we split test that. We did A, B, and C and split the traffic on all of them. And the headline, "Never Make Your Bet Again," was just a clear winner that resonated with so many more people. So many more people opted in, to learn more when we launched. So that was just like an obvious winner where it was like, okay, that's the best way to position this and explain this to people, or at least intriguing enough for them to want to learn more. So, I mean, that's one way we've tested things before.
Yeah, so you basically have like a landing page, and then you A/B test a few different headlines or taglines, and whichever one has the most conversions, whether that means signups, or I guess if you want to really, really step it up to test even more to see if anybody's going to pre-order, depending on your headline. That's how you figure out which one is the one that resonates with the most people. And you're just driving like running Facebook ads to drive traffic to that landing page.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we spent $200 on Facebook max. Otherwise, it was just John and I tweeting it out and sharing it with people that followed us. It probably got, I don't know, a few thousand unique visitors, and to us, that was a large enough data point to figure out what was the best positioning.
Makes sense. Cool. So, once you guys decided to launch your first product, which one was that? Because I see like a few here. Was it the Mod Notebooks? Was that the very first one, or was that the second product that you guys put out?
So technically, the first one was smart betting. That's how John and I started working together. That being said, we were super green with manufacturing and had a ton of problems with our manufacturer, and that one was in limbo for literally over 2 years. And so really we just relaunched that one at the end of January this year. So that's quote unquote our newest product, but technically it was our first one.
What was the idea behind this? How'd you guys come up with the positioning behind this one? Like, what kind of problems were you trying to solve?
Yeah, so that was my first kind of physical product idea. It was before John and I met. The idea was making your bed sucks. There's going to be a better way. So I'm one of those people that likes sleeping with a top sheet. There's a lot of benefit to that. Some people just don't use top sheets, and that's fine. But I'd wake up with top sheet bunched at my feet, or the top sheet would be off one side, and then your duvet is off the other. So in my mind, the definition of making my bed was always fixing my top sheet and kind of realigning it with the duvet, and then just kind of making it center. So the idea was, what if you attach those two pieces together in a way where they still felt like they were free flowing, and you could disconnect them and just use your top sheet if you get hot, What if there's a way to do that? So I originally started with the idea was just to make a little snap system between the two, where you'd just buy the snaps and attach it to your bedding. There was no really elegant way to do that, so I realized it would just make the most sense to just build it into bedding in the first place. So I did a bunch of prototypes just with a local seamstress, and eventually found the best way of doing it. So that was the idea, was to make making your bed easier, or kind of cut it out completely. So it comes down to really two things. There's a snap system along the left and right edge of the top sheet and the duvet cover. And so those two stay aligned. And then the other difference is most bedding, the top sheet is actually cut to be about 1 to 1.5 feet wider than the duvet cover. So it sticks out and it forces you to have to tuck in the sheet around the bed. And to be honest, most people don't do that anymore in this day and age. So those two things basically is how we solve that problem. And really making your bed now consists of just kind of realigning the duvet. It's all one piece now. You kind of ruffle it and then you're done. Mm-hmm. So effectively, you don't have to make your bed anymore.
Yeah, I really like that tagline, never make your bed again. So were you able to validate this one before, pursuing it any further? Because I know you said that you were doing some prototypes, but then the next step after that, obviously, to scale it up, right, and get it out to manufacture. And before we get to the manufacturing part, were you able to find out if there was a market for a product with this kind of positioning?
So from there, we just went directly to Kickstarter. We found a manufacturer that at the time we thought was good. More on that later, but yeah, from there we decided to kickstart it. We, honestly, a lot of our stuff we're not super great at testing. Kickstarter is an amazing way to validate your idea. There's certainly more testing you could do before that, but we just went straight to Kickstarter from there.
Right. So in Kickstarter campaign, the one that you ran, there was a goal of $10,000, ended up raising almost $58,000 from 442 backers. Did you ever expect it to kind of surpass your goal by this much?
We certainly wanted it to, right? We saw at the time, there's stuff that just blew past their original goals. So, we were definitely trying to get it past 10K. I always recommend people to set the goal as, the lowest as possible, where you can still produce the thing and deliver on your promise. But the last thing you want is, the goal to be so high that you don't reach it, but you still had enough funds to still make the thing. So 10K was kind of the bare minimum of what we needed to really kick it off. Mm-hmm. So we were definitely pleased, though.
Yeah, I like that idea of setting as low as possible. And I've heard other Kickstarter campaign creators doing the same thing, because it's also a lot easier to pitch the story of a Kickstarter campaign or Kickstarter product that already surpassed its goal. There's a lot more kind of momentum behind that than trying to get PR or press for a campaign that's struggling to meet its goal. So there's that piece of it. And obviously, you want to be able to reach your goal so you can actually collect the funds. So I think this is an exercise that people have to go through, right? Trying to figure out what is the minimum that they need. How did you guys figure out how much you needed, and what did you end up, spending the $10,000 on?
So we reached out to a lot of manufacturers and figured out ahead of time, who was going to produce this thing for us. So that was 100% what dictated how much we needed to raise. So figuring out what their minimum order quantity was, and then the cost per unit and all that's basically what got us to that. It was a little over 10K. It was probably like 11 and change. We just made it 10. We could come up with the rest if that's all we raised. But yeah, it was 100% the manufacturing around it.
Mm-hmm. So you raised the funds, and then I think this is where it sounds like the horror story begins with the manufacturer. What happened after you finished the campaign and decided to go ahead and get these made?
Yeah, so it's like a 2-year timeline. Wow. But to make a really long story as short as possible, it was just a dishonest manufacturer. Everything that could have gone wrong went wrong, and then stuff that we just never would have imagined went wrong. So first, it was coming in 2 batches. We had 6 colors. I think 3 were in the first batch. That one was supposed to take 30 days. That's not unreasonable. Most manufacturing takes 30 days, and another 30 days to ship to you from overseas. And that was just blown past by like 8 months. And, you're really just at the mercy of this manufacturer. What they're relaying to you is the reasons why, and it was a lot of excuses. So that one finished, shipped to us. We used them to ship it instead of finding our own freight company. And, who knows if they ever actually put it on the boat, but that one got damaged at sea, and also it was supposed to take 30 days, but they shipped it the cheapest way possible, where effectively it traveled around the world. It hit like every continent before it was getting to the port in New York. And then it arrived damaged, or at least it looked like it was damaged. So they claimed the insurance, started that one over. The second one, I think they just lost hope with us, or I mean, they've basically closed up shop, or at least closed down their any form of contacting them and their website and everything. But I mean, just everything went wrong. They and really, it's a really tough position to be in, because we were, just relaying. We had every intention of obviously delivering this product, and you've got these angry backers, and you're just trying to relay to them the best information you can gather. And it's hard to get good information from someone who's unreliable, and so it was tough. We were super green with manufacturing. I mean, looking back, we just didn't know what we were doing. This new time around, we went over, met with the manufacturer, and actually oversaw the whole first production run. But really, eventually, what we had to do is we had to just call it, and we had to realize that it's just never going to come. And we basically were out all that money and began looking for a new manufacturer. And we were just honest with backers. Luckily for us, based on the model of need want, we had this business that had other companies that were bringing other revenue that allowed us to fund this new manufacturing run and eventually make it right with our original backers and deliver on the original promise. So that was tough. That's basically the hardest thing I've ever been through. Is you have 500 people that are angry with you over here, and on the other side you've got this dishonest manufacturer that you should have never gotten into business with in the first place, and then you're out the money and you're trying to figure out where to get the money to start the new run, and you've lost like $100,000 in this whole ordeal. So it was the model of need want definitely saved us in that situation.
Wow, that's definitely probably a lot of entrepreneurs' horror story about having all these sales already made, but then they couldn't deliver, and not necessarily their faults. Is the partners and the vendors that they worked with. So when you look back on it now, were there any red flags that you noticed? Looking back on your experience with that manufacturer.
The order was really, really big. To be honest, there really weren't any red flags, but the thing that we didn't do that we should have is, on an order of that size, we should have gone there in the first place. So anytime we haven't ever met with the manufacturer now, it's because it's not going to be great, but we're okay if literally the worst thing happened and, they just ran with the money. We're okay losing those funds. Like if it's a small enough order where we can't really justify going there for the first production run, but at the same time, if the worst thing is that they're just, going to close up shop and we're out, let's say the order is $5,000 or something, we're okay with losing that. Is really the way we operate now. Sometimes it doesn't make sense to go over there, but and this rule only applies to a new manufacturer in the first production run.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, if they deliver, there's good chance that they're going to keep delivering on that product and the quality and everything. So yeah, it was a big order, and we should have gone over there to oversee the thing.
You said that a couple times about how these manufacturers might close up shop. Is that like a common experience that not necessarily you have, but that you've heard of others having, where they?
No, yeah, not really. I just meant that in the case of quote unquote close up shop, and then no, it hasn't really happened to us except for this guy. I just meant that in the context of them, just taking your money and running, and there really was no shop in the first place. a scam artist through and through.
I see. So you said that nowadays for the first production run for a new manufacturer, you make sure to oversee the production run. So it sounds like you go there in person and meet with them. Is there anything else that you do to make sure that you feel safe with, investing your funds into a large order before? Like, what else do you kind of look out for?
Obviously you should definitely get production samples and get that perfected before you start. Just make sure they can tweak and modify it and get it to where you're happy with it. And if you can't afford to go over there, there's definitely companies that can go visit as an independent third party on your behalf and, scope out the manufacturer and make sure they're legit and there's not children working there, or there's a real business and there's real people there actually producing what they say they are. Other than that, the best thing you can do is just go over there and poke around and, meet with them and have them show you the facilities and all that and just spend time with them.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying, $100,000 gone, basically a lot of money spent on this kind of first experience, but you had the need wants business model, like you're saying, the business already, which helped keep things afloat and actually helped you deliver on the pre-orders. What did you have going on at Need One at the time? What kind of products or services, or what was being offered to kind of fund the company?
Yeah, so by the time this is again 2 years, and so by the time we eventually made the call and we're just like, all right, this is never going to happen. Let's start looking for a new manufacturer. So by that point, we owned Peel. We had acquired that from John. We had Mod Notebooks. We had Emoji Masks. So those three were paying the bills and allowed us to kind of stomach that. And that definitely we were not rolling in cash. That was a hard thing to, basically produce something 2 times over. But yeah, those were the products that funded that.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about Mod Notebooks next. What is Mod Notebooks, and what is the problem that it solves?
Yeah, so Mod is a high quality paper notebook, and the cool part though is in the back page of the notebook, there's a prepaid shipping envelope. And so when you're done with the notebook, you take your notes like normal with pen and paper or pen or whatever you want to use. We basically will digitize it for free once you're done. So you drop it in this nice envelope that's built into the back page, drop it in the mailbox. You don't have to put a shipping label on it or anything. It's already good to go. Think like Netflix DVDs back when they were still using DVDs, and like there's a return label. So you just drop it in there, comes to us, and within 5 days, we digitize it. And then so we have a companion app that allows you to kind of flip through all of your Mod Notebooks. And then that also syncs with Dropbox, Evernote, and Microsoft's OneNote. So the idea is you can have the best of both worlds. You can take your notes, analog with pen and paper, and then have, the benefits of access and storage and having it forever. So it's, kind of blending analog and digital is the idea.
And did you go to Kickstarter for this one too?
Yeah, we actually did. And that one is a little different. So we ended up, the idea was slightly different. Basically the same concept, but it was a subscription model. It was going to be, you get a new notebook every month, and with the new shipment, you send the old one back to us. And so we launched with that on Kickstarter. And the overall idea of, having the best of both worlds resonated with people, but by and large, the feedback from everybody was like, hey, I love this idea. I just don't want it on a subscription basis. Like, I might fill my notebook in 6 months or 2 months or whatever, it might always change. So we actually ended up, instead of, we had already raised, or I think we were on track to, or maybe we already passed it. Instead of, finishing the campaign and then having to build out this product that everybody wanted a slightly tweaked version to, and then, having to re-release it, we ended up canceling the Kickstarter about halfway through and, telling everyone, hey, we're going to relaunch under, the same idea, but not on a subscription basis. So, that at least it allowed us, we knew people wanted it. And at that point, John and I just self-funded it and built it ourselves with our own funds instead of Kickstarter funds, and then launched it about 3 or 4 months later. And then just launched it to, those existing people that backed and then new customers as well. So, Kickstarted it, but didn't finish it on Kickstarter.
Was that a hard decision to make? Because you already have a campaign that's rolling. People are interacting and commenting. They are loving the product 95% of the way, but just want this small tweak to it. Was it a hard decision to make to cancel the campaign?
Oh yeah, for sure. We definitely debated over that a lot, but in the end, it made sense because the alternative was going down that path, knowing everybody wants a different version of it. So you have to build out the one version, deliver on your original promise. And then we knew we were going to be better off to then tweak it. And then you have to build out that. And, there's different resources that go to those two different, variations on the concept. So in the end, yeah, you're leaving money on the table in the short term, but I would say most of those people that had backed in the first place then bought the new one once we relaunched it. So it was just delaying the funds, really, is what it was.
And when you cancel a Kickstarter campaign, do you still have the ability to contact the people that already backed it?
Yeah, at that time, you definitely did. I don't know if you still do. Maybe they've closed that. I'm not sure. But yeah, at the time, we did.
Yeah, I guess that definitely helps with the situation because it's not really, like you're saying, you're not completely losing the potential customer. You can still reach out to them later when you have a more refined product that they definitely want. So the last thing you said previously that kind of gives me this question is that you decided to self-fund it this time rather than going back to Kickstarter with the new version of Mod Notebooks. So I guess the question is, if you could self-fund, is there any, why not go back to Kickstarter, and why did you decide to self-fund instead?
Yeah, so Kickstarter, if people listening to this follow that space, they've probably seen, there's a growing number of projects that raise a lot of money, get a lot of hype, and then fail to deliver. And by self-funding it and building it and then launching, you basically do all that messiness behind the scenes, and then you've figured it out, and then you launch. It's tough making a physical product. Things don't always go according to plan. Sometimes your projections are off on what it's going to cost until you actually get into it. We didn't want to be, coming back to smart betting, we didn't want to be one of those companies that is a story where, it launched all this interest and then it failed to deliver and, a bunch of people lost their money. We just so didn't want to be one of those companies. And that's a growing trend, I think, these days where there's projects that raised millions of dollars on Kickstarter and then they bust and close up shop. So it was a tough call when we decided to redo it. And for us, our way of making it right with all these people that hung on for 2 years is we actually just went to the drawing board, totally improved on every aspect of it. Really, the main thing was we switched from cotton to linen. So actually, our cost to manufacture each set more than doubled from the original concept. And we just, delivered that to the original backers at, their original backing. So really, for us, it was like we paid 3 times over for their original project or their original betting. But again, that was our way of making it right with people and thanking them for hanging on for 2 years. So yeah, it's definitely tough bringing a product to market. And I think by self-funding, building it and then being able to launch and it ships and gets to you in 2 days you can just feel safe in that and you've already figured it out manufacturing. Because just if you look at the data, there's tons of people that launch these things with amazing teams behind them and they still falter and fail because some numbers were off or whatever the reason is.
That's interesting. So, did you feel less pressure by self-funding rather than going through the Kickstarter route?
Yeah, you definitely have to come up with funds yourself up front, and that's pressure, but it's a good kind of pressure, right? Like it's your money on the line.
Right. You're not have to worry about disappointing other people.
Right. Exactly.
So you obviously made it right with smart betting. It sounds like you probably didn't profit from it at all. It sounds like a lot of money you put into it. So you guys made it right with that. But when you launched the Kickstarter campaign, I guess the first time with Mod Notebooks, did that kind of history affect trust, I guess, from the Kickstarter community at all? Did it ever come up?
The smart betting to
just the smart betting experience. With the delay. Obviously, eventually you made it right with all the customers. But were people hesitant to fund the Mod Notebooks campaign?
No, only because had it been 2 years later, that I think definitely. But I think those two were launched. Like John and I actually had the idea for Mod, or what became Mod Notebooks, when we were filming the marketing video for smart betting. So I think we actually launched that Kickstarter just shortly after the smart betting one. So that one was still, at that point we thought, and so did, our customers, that, it was going to be delivered in the next couple of months. So at the time it wasn't this, kind of project in limbo that's looking like it's going to fail. Right. But yeah, I mean, that 100%, that would definitely have affected things. And we wouldn't have done that had it been, in that 2 years in, and it still hasn't delivered.
So I want to talk a little bit about the marketing behind all of this, because all the products, I'm looking at a lot of these and I could see myself buying a lot of these products, but I'm assuming that the marketing has to be, obviously different, right, between all of them. It must be challenging, right, trying to market all these different products at different times. They're all on different destinations. Like, what is that experience like for you guys?
Yeah. So for those listening, you touched on it. Everything is its own website. So smart betting is smartbetting.com, and Peel has its own website. So there is no real, if someone learns of Need Want, and that's great, then they hear about all of our products. But if we acquire a customer for Peel, they may never hear about the others. So yeah, we definitely have to kind of think about how we acquire customers for each one. They're not all sitting under one store or anything like that. And it's definitely been different. Like, we've, up until about June last year, everything was word of mouth. That was the only thing. We had done zero advertising. So the way we had acquired customers were, 1, word of mouth, 2 was press, and then 3 was, we had the Need Want blog, had some good content on it, and we had driven a lot of people that way that then went to the homepage and saw everything else that we made. We're kind of known for really radical transparency with some of our projects. So up until that point, that's kind of all we had. And we were growing, but it definitely was much slower than figuring out advertising or more channels of acquiring customers. So fast forward to about June, maybe August last year, we started to dabble with advertising on Facebook and Twitter, and eventually Instagram and Pinterest. And so we started with Peel. We have the best conversion rate on that one and the best margins on that one. And we worked with a firm, and really about a month in, we had kind of figured out advertising enough to at least make it profitable. So every dollar that was spent on ads, we could tie it back to profitable revenue. And that's really, for the last year, that's been the biggest growth channel for us is Facebook ads. So dialing that in has been our number one growth channel.
Awesome. Sounds like word of mouth, press, blogging, and the Facebook ads are the main keys. So I want to kind of talk a little bit about each one, starting with your blog. So you were saying that you guys are super transparent. I think I saw something about this too, with the projects you guys create. What are, I guess, the pros and cons of that? Because I've seen this movement, I think more so in the technology space, where people are publishing income reports and being really transparent about how much money they're making, what they're spending their money on. But I guess the cons that come with it are also there's maybe more pressure, maybe you attract the wrong kind of attention. What has your experience been like with being transparent with your projects?
Yeah, like we started it early on. Like the first blog posts were, us sharing numbers on different case studies, and we kind of stumbled into it. We were writing those posts just because they were fun, and then we realized a lot of people love numbers and seeing that kind of stuff. Honestly, there was no like high level strategy on any of that. It was just, this is fun. Let's keep doing it. People enjoy it. Um, the benefits are certainly hard to quantify, but
Mhm.
we've met a lot of awesome people, and we've become known for this thing, and it just helps overall. But speaking to the cons of it, I mean, there's definitely, you open yourself up to copycats and people stealing or trying to build exactly what you've built based on a case study, like emoji masks, for example. We were the first ones to do that, and now there's copycats. And I think there would have been either none or way less had we not published the numbers on that, 1 month into it. So, like whatever, it's fine. I'm sure we left money on the table by doing that, but I still see the benefit in being transparent and sharing with people. It builds, community. It helps build our brand. It's just fun. Again, I keep coming back to that. It's just fun, and we'll continue to keep doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I think if this is helping build a brand and drive traffic to your site, then maybe overall, at the end of the day, it might be more beneficial than harming, even your bottom line at the end of the day. But like you're saying, it's really hard to quantify that kind of thing.
Yeah, like we definitely, for us now, it's transparency when possible, and when possible is kind of now the key word. There's certainly competitive reasons not to share some things, so we default to, okay, we'll share this, but if there's a reason not to, or a really good reason not to, we won't sometimes, but it just depends now.
Makes sense. So you mentioned press as well early on. That was a key driver of traffic for you. What is the strategy there? Like, how do you pitch the press to cover the products that you're putting out?
Yeah, I mean, I think coming back to positioning, that helped a ton with getting press. I think so. I mean, some of it they found us via the Kickstarter campaign, and I mean, certain blogs and journalists, they're looking for something new to write about. They want you to exist, so they have something to write about. So we got lucky on some of them where they just found us, but others, you just have to craft a short and compelling pitch. Look for journalists, if it's a large blog, look for journalists that cover that type of product. Not everybody writes about everything in tech. If it's a tech blog, some guys focus on the Internet of Things or whatever. You have to match up with what they write about, and they all publish their email address, or there's a general tips email address. And I mean, it's just a grind of reaching out to people and trying to get in front of them, whether it's email or Twitter or whatever. And again, I would definitely urge people to keep it short and sweet. And having something that's just interesting and resonates with them goes a long way. If it's not really anything new, it's not interesting to them. So having some solid positioning and positioning in a way where it feels like it's new and exciting, that definitely helps.
Yeah, I think it's an important point that the people that you're pitching these publications, they're all people that are trying to do a job as well, and they want good stories. So if you can help them do their job by giving them a good story, then they're much more likely to listen and obviously, feature you. So I think that the positioning part comes into play because not only is it a good positioning, kind of give you a hint at what the story is, but then also keeps it short and sweet, like you're saying, to get your message across as soon as possible. So Facebook ads. So you started dabbling in that, and you said you guys originally hired an agency to help you with it.
Yeah, I mean, from the start, we worked with this agency. I think when we started, we put aside like $10,000 that we were okay with losing. It was a massive experiment, and you have to spend money on ads to figure out if it'll work, and it might not, and you have to be okay with losing that money. And if it isn't working, then you shut it off and you stop losing money. But so we worked with them. I think the original idea was to spend like $3,000 to $4,000 for 3 to 4 months. $10,000 overall. But lucky for us, they were able to figure out some ad units and targeting that were at least break even is, the number one thing we were trying to hit. And then from there, you can kind of work down. So yeah, it ended up working out. Great guys we work with. And, like I said, like it was a massive experiment. There's all these different marketing channels and ways of acquiring customers. And, we had this list of different ideas, and they are all question marks up until we try them. And some are going to work and some are not. And for us, it was just, slowly saving up money to use our resources to, find out if one or the other was going to work or not. And some work and some don't. And that's great because then you at least know and you can move on to the next one.
Do you remember some of the things that you learned with that experience, like either about Facebook ads or just about your customers?
Nothing that really stands out. I think I don't manage it day to day. It's this agency we work with, and we have like a weekly call, so I'm not super in the nitty gritty of it. But I know you have to get into just really targeted niche audiences, and so we're always looking for new audiences that fit with the positioning of Peel and minimalism or whatever it is that resonate with them. For us, I think the interesting thing was, even if it's just break even, if we just break even on it, yeah, we're not making any money, but going into it, we knew the word of mouth around that particular product was really, really high. It's the number one thing you walk around with is your phone, and people constantly see our case, or they think there is no case, and they comment, "Hey, like, you idiot, you don't have a case on your phone. That's so dumb." And they're like, "Actually, I do." And then, that's a great kind of word of mouth situation where they can share our product. So breaking even on a product like that, where, there's such a high word of mouth quotient on it, we were okay with that because that drew in and brought in more customers in the future. So yeah, I think for that, look, and if you have a high kind of word of mouth, and there's different ways of figuring that out going into it, being okay with breaking even is fine.
Awesome. Yeah. So in the spirit of transparency, can you tell us, how successful is the entire, Need Want a business today?
Yeah. So we're a little over 2 years into it. First year, I think we did around $300K in top line revenue. Then second year we just over doubled. I think we did like 700,000 and some change. And then this year we're on track to, depending on the holidays, do somewhere between 2.5 to 3 million this year.
Wow, that's amazing. So what's the team like? Is it just you and your partner? Like, who's behind the entire Need Want business?
Yeah, so we have, including founders, we have 7 employees, and then 2 part-time as well. So the team consists of myself. I act as CEO. My co-founder, John, is head of product. So he's working on, future products and then additional products for our existing brands. And then David, who is our third co-founder, he came on about a year in, heads up design. So he does all of our, design for everything, whether it's packaging or the websites. And then we have a operations guy, Jason, who oversees just, all operations as far as shipping logistics and all that. He works with our fulfillment center. We use an outsourced fulfillment center. And then there's head of support, Ginny, and then we have an assistant / editor. She also helps edit our minimums publication. We've got a few content sites that kind of serve as free advertising for us. So she heads that up, and then also is just the overall assistant for the company.
Awesome. So thanks so much, Marshall. So buypeel.com, smartbetting.com, modnotebooks.com, emojimess.com were the 4 products that we talked about today. But if you just go to needwant.com, you'll see all of the products and links to all of them. Again, thanks so much for coming on, Marshall. Is there anyone else that you recommend listeners go and check out if they want to follow along with what you're up to?
I think needwant.com should point them in the right direction. We've got everything linked up on there.
Cool. And then I guess for any other podcast listeners out there, I know you guys also put out podcast episodes. Is that also at needwant.com?
Yeah, it's you can find it on there, but it's also called Hatching if you look for it in iTunes. And
Awesome.
we basically, it's more of the same. We talk about kind of the inner workings of our company and share different numbers and what's been working, what hasn't, things like that.
Yeah, it's very cool. It looks like some of the topics. Most recent episode is about smart betting launch and the revenue numbers. You talk about biggest sales months and all that. So it looks like a lot of great transparent things. I think the audience is going to love. Cool. So again, thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to Shopify Masters, the e-commerce marketing podcast for ambitious entrepreneurs. To start your store today, visit shopify.com for a free 14-day trial.